Assalamu alaikum. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli waj'al li waziran min ahli Haruna akhi ushdud bihi azri washriku fi amri kay nusabbihaka kaseera wa nazkuraka kaseera innaka kunta bina basira. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome, dear friends. We will continue with the 23rd flash, which is on what nature is and certain phrases that we use in terms of, for example, it is snowing, it is raining, and then what it is, or nature makes this is natural. So a lot of these terminologies are prevalent. You know, and then it's funny, I was just chatting with one of the AI tools I put this phrase basically, nature necessitates it and nature makes it, and I asked it to explain it, right? And it became a long conversation of confusing language. It says nature is not there, it's anthropomorphic, there's a structure, and then so a lot of different, but it was interesting, right? So we're going to continue in terms of how the third way. So there were a few phrases basically that, let's see what exactly the 23rd flash, right, which is on the verse, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. Their prophet said, is there any doubt about God, creator of the heavens and the earth? This section 14, verse 10. I think the focus that he's making is creator of the heavens and the earth, right? And then we've talked about the first phrase, causes create this, and then the author shared three impossibilities for this thing to say that causes are making this or giving existence to this, causes create this. Then we looked into it forms itself or it comes into existence. Basically, the thing itself has the ability to give existence to itself. It forms itself. That's how it is. It's natural, right? So that's the language. So the third is it is natural. Nature necessitates and creates it, right? So, so we'll go into this third way, which says nature necessitates it or nature makes it. So this statement contains many impossibilities. We shall mention three of them by way of examples. So the first impossibility. If the art and creativity, which are discerning and wise, to be seen in beings, and particularly in animate beings, are not attributed to the pen of divine determining and power of the pre-eternal Son, and instead are attributed to nature and force, which are blind, deaf, and unthinking. It becomes necessary that nature either should have present in everything machines and printing presses for their creation, or should include in everything power and wisdom enough to create and administer the universe. The reason for this is as follows. The sun's manifestations and reflections appear in all small fragments of glass and droplets on the face of the earth. Right? So the sun's manifestations and reflections appear in all small fragments of glass and droplets on the face of the earth. If those miniature reflected imaginary suns are not ascribed to the sun in the sky, It is necessary to accept the external existence of an actual sun in every tiny fragment of glass smaller than a match head, which possesses the sun's qualities and which, which though small in size, bears profound meaning, and therefore to accept actual suns to the number of pieces of glass. In exactly the same way, if beings and animate creatures are not attributed directly to the manifestation of the pre-eternal sun's names or qualities, it becomes necessary to accept that in each being, and especially animate beings, there lies a nature, a force, or quite simply a God that will sustain an infinite power and will, and knowledge and wisdom. Such an idea is the most absurd and superstitious of all the impossibilities in the universe. It demonstrates that a man who attributes the art of the creator of the universe to imaginary, insignificant, unconscious nature is without a doubt less conscious of the truth than an animal. Right, so this is the first impossibility on nature, right? I don't know how this is coming beyond nature. Interesting. So looking at the art and creativity, which catches our attention, discerning, and we can tell that there are the beings that are created. I mean, that we see existing are wisely created. We can see that. They display art and creativity in them, right? If you look at the animal world, you look at the plant world, look at the seas, you can look at the skies, even the clouds, the stars, everything has particular creativity and art in them. Even if we look at ourselves, which the author used in the previous examples, our own body, even the internals, how everything is, each bones and the connection with the that is happening with each of our body parts, how interconnected they are, is another creativity and art displayed, right? So if we think that these are existing by themselves, that they are there, right? The eyes are existing and the vision that we makes our eyes, the ability to see everything is existing by itself, right? If you don't really understand even the ability to walk or move our hands, if you don't realize all that is basically being given attribute the power, and it must be attributed to whoever is my maker in a way, right? The pre-eternal sun, right? How can I say this is natural? I'm walking naturally. Or this thing exists naturally. Something that is, first of all, ambiguous, has nobody can define it, what nature is, right? But then they say, and then, for example, in my conversation with the AI tool, it says, you're right, there's no such thing as nature, but it's a structure, right? Then it used the word structure to replace nature. But when I asked structure, then it says, there's no such thing, it's not metaphysical, right? So it kept using other terminology. There's basically all these cause effects are happening by something that is blind, and it's accepting that it has no quality, no. But the things are so wise and so artistic and so creative. How can we say that something blind, deaf, and unthinking is doing it? So that's why I think we need to be conscious, aware of what is going on. And the author gives the example of the sun's reflection on fragments of glass and droplets, right? Every droplet and is reflecting the quality of the sun. That's how the universe is in each being. Everything is reflecting the quality of the pre-eternal sun. Like as an analogy, pre-eternal sun, the one who is giving existence to the source of existence of each and every being. So every quality that we see in the thing is a reflection of the quality of the its maker. So how the language that we use that, oh, that's natural, this is how it is like another absurd and superstitious impossibility. That's what I took away. Sohail, any comments on this?
Um, yeah, it's what you're saying is uh, makes sense to me. I like how he says at the beginning, if the art and creativity, which are discerning and wise, to be seen in beings, in particular in animate beings, are not attributed to the pen of divine determining and a power of the pre-eternal Son. So he's making a very, very clear distinction, between like Iman, belief, and kufr, denial, in the sense that every moment or on every mirror in the world, we see this inscription of divine determining, meaning his power, his will, his knowledge, all these names, these qualities. Um, and, um, and he says that, yeah, there is art and creativity, and it's very precise, very wise. And yet we attribute it to unconscious, insignificant, imaginary, as you said, nature, which isn't even a thing. It's not even a thing I can even point to in this world. Um, that's completely absurd. But yet we kind of do it in our everyday life because we kind of take for granted the pre-eternal suns, qualities that manifest on the mirror of the world. And then in some ways attributed to the mirror itself. We attribute the reflection to the mirror itself, and not to the sun, pre-eternal sun. So, um, but that's the absurdity, and sort of, I mean, and it's very clear. There's not even a question about it. No one can even debate this. There's nothing to debate, you know. So
Yeah, you
one
said
is
we're using it
real.
every time. Basically, we use this language, right? So the when I was chatted with the AI tool, it said this is a
Mhm.
shorthand language that we use.
Yeah, exactly. Shorthand. Yeah. Shorthand, but completely wrong.
Yeah. But,
So,
but that's not a justification that, okay, shorthand is acceptable, it makes sense or not, because it's so confusing, the shorthand.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, the problem is when it becomes acceptable language, then we sort of forget. Like, and it then becomes just like how we think then, you know?
Yeah,
So when we say it is raining, I always say that it is raining.
right. Makes no sense.
Makes no sense when you think about it. What is it? Well, it in some ways refers to we're talking about,
The
I guess,
fact that this is happening.
huh?
The fact that something is happening,
Yeah,
basically.
but yeah, that's true. It's the fact that something is happening, and then we say is, it's just happening and raining, but we never ask the question, how is it even possible for it to even rain? And the fact that it's raining now, we never think about the pen of divine determining and the power of the pre-eternal sun, you know.
Right,
So we just say it is raining. Whereas the Quran doesn't say that. It says we sent down, we do this, we sent down, you know, the
right.
rain. So the Quran never says it is raining.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even the sky says we set the sky.
Yeah.
When you
So
look at it, don't we see how we set it up, how we arranged
yeah,
it?
correct. So but we don't speak like that. Nobody actually
Yeah,
speaks like that. As you said, shorthand. It's completely nonsense. It's completely, you know, incoherent, but that's kind of how we talk. So
yeah. I mean, it sounds like as if like each being has within itself something, some qualities that,
Yeah, exactly. There's something inherent
right?
in the thing itself that gives it the ability to
Although
do
we cannot
something.
show it.
Yeah, no one can actually show it. No one
Yeah,
can demonstrate it, but
yeah,
everybody claims that there's something there. It's complete, I mean, a complete lie. It's an absurdity that people are so convinced about it, but yet nobody can actually show it.
right.
You know? Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go to the second impossibility. So, if beings which are most well ordered and well measured, wise and artistically fashioned, are not ascribed to one who is infinitely powerful and wise, and instead are attributed to nature, there has to be present in every bit of soil as many factories and printing presses as there are in Europe, so that each bit of soil can be the means for the growth and formation of innumerable flowers and fruits, of which it is the place of origin and workshop. The seeds of flowers are sown in turn in a bowl of soil, which performs the duty of a flower pot for them. An ability is apparent in the bowl of soil that will give shapes and forms, which differ greatly from one another to all the flowers sown in it. If that ability is not attributed to the all-glorious and all-powerful one, such a situation could not occur without there being in the bowlful of soil immaterial, different, and natural machines for each flower. This is because the matter of which seeds, like sperm and eggs, for example, consists is the same. The matter of which seeds, like sperm and eggs, for example, consist is the same. That is, they consist of an orderless, formless, paste-like mixture of oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen. So the matter is composed of the same kind of, right, same matter. Together with this, since air, water, heat, and light also are each simple, unconscious, and flow against everything in floods. The fact that the all different forms of those flowers emerge from the soil is a most well ordered and artistic fashion, self evidently and necessarily requires that there are present in the soil in the bowl immaterial miniature printing presses and factories to the number of presses and factories in Europe, so that they could weave their great number of living fabrics and thousands of various embroidered textiles. So you can see how far the unbelieving thought of the naturalists has deviated from the realm of reason. And although brainless pretenders who imagine nature to be the creator claim to be men of science and reason, see just how distant from reason and science is their thought, so that they have taken a superstition that is in no way possible, that is impossible, as a way for themselves, see this and laugh at them. Okay, before we go to if you ask, let's go over this, right? I mean, here again, he says things, if we examine them, the things in the universe, well ordered, well measured, everything is perfectly fine-tuned and in their existence, artistically fashioned. So And then he gives the example of the flowers in the big pot of, like the soils of the that is available, and multitude of different kinds of plants and flowers are coming out of it, right? So, and of course, they're well ordered, well measured, and artistically fashioned, all of these flowers. And then the seeds pretty much look the same, right? They're composed of the same chemicals, structure as he says, oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen. And then together with the air, water, heat, light, which are also given existence. But yeah, but we use them. It's air, water, and then somehow all these different well-ordered artistic flowers come into existence, right? I mean, how can we explain that? That all these well-ordered artistic flowers, is that the soil that is doing it, or is it the right? So all the qualities that we see in the flowers and the plants, does the soil have anything in it? That is it like within the flower itself? Is it in the soil itself? Right. So this is what the naturalist, I guess he uses Europe a lot because of the philosophy of, I think, European philosophy of naturalism and material science, basically, that gives material the ability to be the source of existence in a way, right? So material which itself is in need of existence, right? So these matters, even if you say oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, how are they coming together? How are they coordinating, collaborating together? Like, who told them to do it? Like, if they had their own free will, oxygen will say, hey, I'm not willing to collaborate with you, or I want to go somewhere else, right? So heat and light are also each simple, unconscious, and flow against everything in floods. This is interesting. Together with this, since air, water, heat, and light also are each simple, unconscious, so they are not conscious themselves. It's air, water, heat, and light, and flow against everything in floods. The fact that all different forms of these flowers emerge from the soil is a most well-ordered and artistic fashion self-evidently and necessarily require that there are present in the soil and the bowl immaterial miniature printing presses and factories, right? So the naturalists need to show that there's something within the soil itself that shapes all these flowers, right? So the printing presses to give existence to these flowers in the way they are. I mean, it's a magical thing basically from the soil, something that comes out, even a shoot or the flower, to be given existence, incredible. Like how come the soil is from the soil something is coming out, right? So I don't know. It says the man of science and reason, just how distant they are from the realities. And it keeps using the word superstition in the language, basically, which is a confusing language, right? The superstitious language. All right. So he'll go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like it's kind of, as you said, sort of miraculous, amazing that from soil, which is dead in some sense, or is not animate, as he calls it, orderless, formless, paste-like mixture of oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen. And yet you get from this soil innumerable different plants, you know, uh, that come up from it. So how does the soil know? Like, what quality is there in the soil that says I can have the ability to shape and form all these different plants, such order and measure, good measure, you know, from one bowl of soil. Um, so, as he says, if you don't attribute it to an all glorious, all powerful one, then you have to attribute all of this machinery, this knowing, this power, this will to the soil itself. So, you know, it's completely absurd again, how from this soil so many things can come. Um, so, I mean, that's beyond reason. And as he says, it's interesting. The naturalists claim that they're being reasonable, but it's completely brainless, as he says. Um, so it's complete superstition.
Funny, brainless pretenders.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's superstition. It's superstition. It's essentially some sort of pagan belief that this idea that soil can produce so many different species of
Yeah,
plants, you know, from soil,
right.
which is just as he says, it likes sperm and eggs. Um, like in the soil there are these seeds, and the soil, it's just all of it's just oxygen, hydrogen, carbon. He's right, just elements, you know.
Yeah,
So, you know, unconscious elements. And from this, so many different species come. It doesn't make any sense when you think about it,
correct. Yeah.
you know?
I was talking to a gardener and they said, okay, this plant needs nitrogen. That's how
Yeah.
my plants gets, nutrition and all that. They look better, basically.
You know, the other thing to think about is that, you know, when you plant it, like have you ever seen a plant when it grows to the sun?
Yeah,
You always think about that. It grow. How does the plant know how to do that if it's coming from like this sort of unconscious soil when you think about it? Or like,
correct.
you know, it's just
Yeah, yeah.
matter. Sort of amazing when you think about it.
Subhanallah.
No. Yeah, so I mean that's it's really what it is,
All right.
you know, but people would have you believe that the soil is doing it. The plants, I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
like I said, it's just elements. Like these elements are nothing really at the end of the day. Or
all
some,
right. Yeah, I
so,
think because of the proximity to the closeness, they think that, oh, that is doing it. The nitrogen is basically responsible
yeah.
for this plant to
Somehow
sprout.
the nitrogen and the carbon and the
Yeah,
oxygen in a particular arrangement somehow makes the plant and then makes the plant know to want to have sunlight and water. You know, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just craziness.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's continue with the if you ask. If such extraordinary impossibilities and in some insurmountable difficulties occur when beings are attributed to nature, basically you have to show that each of these beings have some printing press, know exactly the others, and knows how to do the artistic abilities, the balance, the harmony, everything. So how are these difficulties removed when they are attributed to the single and eternally besought one? And how is the difficult impossibility transformed into that easy necessity? So I guess this is really asking, not understanding what the single and eternally besought one is, like the eternal sun, or right, how is that difficulty made easy? So we saw in the first impossibility. So I guess if this is like we're like brainwashed with the material sciences, then we would say, how is that possible? This impossibility can be made easy, right? So we saw in the first impossibility that the manifestation of the sun's reflection displays its radiance and effect through miniature imaginary suns with complete ease and lack of trouble in everything from the minutest inanimate particle to the surface of the vastest ocean. If each particle's relationship with the sun is severed, it becomes necessary to accept that the external existence of an actual sun could subsist with a difficulty at the level of impossibility in each of those minute particles. Similarly, if each being is ascribed directly to the single eternally besought one, everything necessary for each being can be conveyed to it through a connection and manifestation with an ease and facility that is at the level of necessity. If the connection is severed and each being reverts from its position as an official to being without duties and is left to nature and its own device, it becomes necessary to suppose that with 100,000 difficulties and obstacles that reach the degree of impossibility, blind nature possesses within it the power and wisdom. Blind nature possesses within it the power and wisdom to create and administer the universe, so that it might bring into existence the wonderful machine of the being of an animate creature like a fly, which is a tiny index of the universe. This is impossible not just once, but thousands of times over. Okay. In short, just as it is impossible and precluded for the necessarily existent one to have any partner or like in respect of his essence, so too is the interference of others in his dominicality and in his creation of beings impossible and precluded. As for the difficulties involved in the second impossibility, as is proved in many parts of the Risale-i Nur, if all things are attributed to the single one of unity, all things become as easy and trouble-free as a single thing. Whereas if they are attributed to causes and nature, a single thing becomes as difficult as all things. This has been demonstrated with numerous decisive proofs, and a summary of one of them is as follows. If a man is connected to the king by being a soldier or an official, by reason of the strength of the connection, he may perform duties far exceeding his individual strength. He may on occasion capture another king in the name of his own king, for he himself does not carry the equipment and sources of strength necessary to carry out the duties and work he performs, nor is he compelled to do so. By reason of the connection, the king's treasuries and the army, which is behind him and is his point of support, carry his equipment and sources of strength. By reason of the connection, the king's treasuries and the army which is behind him and is his point of support carry his equipment and sources of strength. That is to say, the duties he performs may be as grand as the business of a king and as tremendous as the actions of an army. Indeed, through being an official, an ant destroyed Pharaoh's palace. Through the connection, a fly killed Nimrod off. And through the connection, the seed of a pine the size of a grain of wheat produces all the parts of a huge pine tree. Okay, so there's a footnote, which is a big one. Let's see what this says. Yes, through the connection, the seed receives an order from divine determining and displays those wonderful duties. If the connection were to be severed, the creation of the seed would require more equipment, power, and art than the creation of the mighty pine tree. For it would be necessary for the pine tree out there on the mountain, which is the work of divine power, to be physically present together with all its limbs and parts in what is only the potential tree within the seed and is the work of divine determining. For the mighty tree's factory is the seed. The determined potential tree within it becomes manifest in the external world through divine power and becomes a physical pine tree. So if the connection is severed and the man discharged from his duties as an official, he will be compelled to carry the equipment and sources of strength necessary for his work himself. He will then only be able to perform duties commensurate with the sources of strength and ammunition he is able to carry. If he is required in this situation to carry out his duties with the extreme ease of the first situation, it will be necessary to load on his back the sources of an army's strength and the arsenals and munitions factories of a king. Even clowns who invent stories and superstitions to make people laugh would be ashamed at this fanciful idea. So, in short, to attribute all beings to the necessarily existent one is so easy as to be necessary, while to attribute their creation to nature is so difficult as to be impossible and outside the realm of reason. That was a big second impossibility, right? With the question about how come it becomes easy for an absolute being if it's attributed to an absolute being versus if each one has their own quality to be able to do whatever the wondrous things that each being is doing, right? And then he says this is only possible through the relationship, right? If with the Lord of the universe, if anyone disconnects himself. So Brotherly uses a lot of this example, right? If you with between belief and unbelief, he says if you sever the ties with your, I mean, try to exist by yourself in a way, right? You don't have that awareness, that connection, right? If you don't understand that everything in being in existence is completely contingent and tied to the absolute being, right? Then we should try ourselves. Can we exist by ourselves, for example? Can I give existence to myself? And anybody can ask, right? If I don't have that, if I don't explain that, yes, someone is giving me existence at every moment. How can I explain my existence if somebody says, okay, there's no such being, then how can I even give myself existence in a way? Right? So the severance, that disconnection for each particle's relationship with the sun is very interesting in terms of then the particle has to sustain itself, it has to give itself existence. If there's no connection with the absolute being, then it becomes extremely difficult. That's how the difficulty is, right? To give existence to oneself, to that particle, to the qualities that it's looking for. Then he gives a few examples with the soldier, with the connection to the king, right? It's like the first word about you're traveling in the desert without the support of a king or the roof head of the tribe or something, then pretty much you're done. All the difficulties would come. But if you're protected and by the king, then you act in that king's name in whatever is being done. and the Quranic descriptions of how an ant destroyed Pharaoh's palace, king killed Nimrod off, all officials, little things, official with the strongest connection. Yeah. Any comments, Hill, on this one?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I like these examples he gives. You know, um, he shows, and I like, so he really uses the chronic method in the sense of showing why there must be or why must attribute to a single internally besought one. Eternally besought being a summit, single, I'm guessing he means um, either al-ahad or wahid, one of the two. I'm not sure exactly which one he's referring to.
Is the single one of unity by this
Yeah,
one?
that must be ahad that he's referring to. Al-ahad, like Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad. I
Hmm.
think that's probably what eternally besought. So as-samad and ahad, al-ahad.
Right. The song,
Um,
everything is dependent on him, basically.
Correct. Yeah, everything. Yeah, he is both the source and everything is dependent, both at the same time. Yeah. And he shows that by showing the opposite. And that to me is the Quranic method, where the Quran negates the singleness and eternally besought nature of the things themselves to show you that it must go back to him who must be single and eternally besought. So that's what he's doing here. He's showing you how, if you do not accept this pre-eternal Son, this dependency, as you said, this contingency upon the pre-eternal Son, um, this, as you think, I think he says it here, is it, or somewhere else, he says, necessarily existent one. Maybe it's earlier, the wajib al-wujud.
Here one, yeah, necessarily exists.
Yeah, wajib al-wujud. So, this one who by all, necessarily all things are contingent, dependent upon, then you need to accept, like necessarily accept that all things, I guess, as he always says, to the number of particles in the universe are their own sort of sun. They all subsist on their own accord.
Hmm.
Um, and that uh, so if things are left to nature, then you say nature has this power and this wisdom and will and knowledge, um, uh, that all things must come into being, even something as precise and miniature as he says, a fly, which he calls a tiny index of the universe. Tiny index to me meaning like it possesses the qualities in just that tiny creature that manifest on the rest of the world. You see knowledge on that fly. You see power, you see will, you see wisdom, you see form, you see all these things um, uh, on the being of a fly, which sort of manifest in the rest of the world as well. So nature would have to account for all of these difficulties to do so, to produce even the smallest of fly. Um, so if you sever that connection, um, so uh, and I like how he says if the connection is severed and each being reverts from its position as an official to being as an official to being without duties and is left to nature and its own devices, it becomes necessary to suppose that with 100,000 difficulties, obstacles that reach the degree of impossibility, blind nature possesses within it the power and wisdom to create and administer the universe, so that it might bring into existence the wonderful machine of the being of an animate creature like a fly, which is a tiny index of the universe. So it says, I mean, you go from it being an official of a single eternally besought one to essentially just blind nature, no duty. It's left to its own devices. And somehow, from being left to its own devices, blind nature can produce an index of the universe that we call a fly. So it's completely crazy when you think about it.
Blind nature.
Yeah. So, just as it's impossible to prove for the necessary. Uh,
But they say like the DNA, right? Was
Correct.
didn't.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with somebody recently about DNA.
Yeah.
DNA does it. DNA does it, and then
How did you explain that then?
in the end, they said, yeah. Well, it was just like with kids, sort of. I was just show them, and they were like, because
But
people get taught this, and it's nonsense. It's just complete
I mean, their
crazy.
brain, everybody's brainwashed in that sense.
Everybody's been brainwashed. Everybody's been
Yeah.
brainwashed. So whether you call yourself Muslim or not is irrelevant to me. Everybody's been brainwashed with the same language, and the kids realize that yeah, it's dust, but they say it's magic dust, DNA.
Magic dust,
Yeah, I mean, they were just saying that as like the kids, like kids say, and they understood.
their language.
Yeah, because like when you think about it, yeah, it's just magic. People just call it magic dust, pixie dust, then, just
Yeah.
craziness. Um, so just as it is impossible and precluded for the necessary existent to have any partner or like in respect of his essence, so too is the interference of others in his dominion accounting his creation of beings impossible and precluded. So, I like this conclusion he comes to, and it's a conclusion, just like to me, the Quran, how the Quran does it. You look to the world, you accept this impossibility, like the Quran says, and you say it can't be possible. Like you consider it, not accept it, you consider it. And you're like, this is not possible. It can only be attributed to him alone. All power must be attributed to him, all will must be attributed. His is the dominion, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not just as he says, oh, there's a creator out there, there's a God out there, but he has nothing to do with the creation at this very moment. What people think to believe, even though they claim to believe in a creator, but not in their own personal life or day to day, every moment,
Right.
you know, because nature does it.
Yeah.
Um, and he says, once you accept the truth, everything becomes easy.
Right.
It proceeds from a single one of unity, and it becomes very easy. That's why you can explain, um, uh, you know, as he says, if a man is connected to the king by being a soldier or an official,
Mm.
he can perform duties exceeding his own strength. How else can you explain that a virus, we talk about COVID, not virus, bacteria, I guess. Yeah, no, sorry, it's a virus. COVID's a virus. How do you explain like COVID can cause so much illness, disease, a complete change? We're talking about completely change the world order,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
If you think about it, that's kind of amazing. Nobody really even thinks about this. Like, how does a virus, which nobody can even see with their own eyes, it completely upends the entirety of civilization, how people do things.
Right.
Nobody considers this. Where does this power come from? You know, he gives the example how a fly killed off Nimrod, how an ant destroyed Pharaoh's palace,
Like
how,
an ant for the whole palace. Subhanallah. Like
yeah,
that's
that
incredible.
power doesn't come from the ant itself.
Yeah. That
Only
little thing.
so, um, so he doesn't carry the equipment and sources of strength necessary to carry out the duties, nor is he compelled to do so. Um, so, you know, the duties he performs maybe as grand as the business of a king. So, I mean, but yeah, nobody thinks about this. Like, how is this even possible? Just like so a virus could, no, it's a point of reflection.
Yeah.
Um, so if the connection is severed and the man discharged from his duties as an official, he'd be compelled to carry the equipment and sources of strength necessary for this work himself. But we don't see that, you know? What power is there in an ant, in and of itself, or in a fly, or in a virus?
Right.
No? So,
I like his confidence. Even clowns who invent stories and superstitions to make people laugh would be ashamed
yeah.
at this idea. That
Yeah,
tells
it's a
you, yeah, how
completely
curious this
ridiculous
is.
idea. But that's kind of how the age is now, you know? Nobody questions it. So
I mean, is it acceptable how the age is now, or like,
yeah, I mean it's not really acceptable, but unfortunately that's just
what what is going on like in society? I'm wondering. Like, how are we? so complacent in terms of not really taking it seriously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hard, you and me, but I don't really quite understand how people can accept this and they're okay. And like I said, people call themselves like Muslim. They say, "Oh, I'm Muslim," or "I'm this," or "I'm that." It doesn't mean anything. Like, what do you believe in? You know?
Right.
You know?
This is a good review for me actually to see
Yeah,
what the world is.
yeah. So once like someone starts like once I understand like this is how the world is, it becomes actually hard to see to accept this sort of discourse, the civilization, the way people think. It's impossible. It's completely contradictory to belief.
Right.
It's a black and white separation here. There's not even, there can be no mixing of the two.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I call Allahu Ahad Allahu Samad.
yeah. So, and then he says, um, in some ways, I think he's probably actually giving that tafsir Surah Ikhlas. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ. Like he does not beget nor is he begotten. That's why I think he maybe talks about how no one can share in his dominicality. And then وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. So, I mean, in some sense, it's Surah Ikhlas is a very profound chapter. It's essential, one of the most important chapters in the Quran, if not the most, you could argue,
Right.
chapter in the Quran.
Like with deep meanings if we
Yeah,
unpack.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And this is one of it, right? This section. This
Yeah,
is the existent one. Have any partner, lam yalid wa lam yulad, in
yeah,
respect of his essence.
yeah. So, yeah, he's in some ways giving sort of, I think, tafsir. That's why I think he's using these words. Single one of unity, eternally besought one,
Yeah.
no partner, lem yalid wa lam yulad, you know.
Right. So can we assign to nitrogen and oxygen, hydrogen some
Yeah,
power
yeah,
or something that this is helping the plant or something? No.
yeah.
No.
So,
Lam yalid wa lam yulad.
yeah. So, but
Subhan.
yeah, I mean, it's a very profound analysis of, I think he's talking about Sotah Thought probably here, is my
I
guess.
think so. Yeah, looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Perfect.
but
Allah.
did you have any other thoughts on this?
No, this is beautiful, actually. Let's see how big the third impossibility. It's pretty big.
Mm. Um,
Do you think we should stop here for today?
yeah, actually, we can stop here. Actually, I sorry, you read the comment, right? The footnote.
Yeah, yeah. You had something on the footnote?
I mean, he talks about divine determining.
Yeah, that's interesting, right?
I love how he always brings in qadar or divine determining
Yeah, yeah.
into the picture.
This one.
Um, So he says the determined potential tree within it becomes manifest in the external world through divine power and becomes a physical pine tree.
It is
Yeah.
through the connection the seed of a pine the size of a grain of wheat produces all the parts of a huge pine tree, right?
Yeah.
So,
So, he says the seed has the potentiality of a tree.
yeah,
And people confuse
the seed is the,
potential.
because I have the seed, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
grows because of the
People
seed.
think the seed actually, but they don't confuse that has the ability, but the seed is the potential of a tree. But what is happening then is divine determining makes manifest in the external world through his
Yeah.
power, his knowledge,
This
his
is
will.
the seed
His,
receives an order.
yes.
It's not acting by, but through the connection, it receives an order.
Yeah. Receives
If
it
the,
through the connection. Yeah.
if the
Receives it.
seed is independent of any other being or the pre-eternal Son, then how can the seed do anything, right? It's lifeless. It's just matter without anything to do.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
seed receives an order from divine determining. It's interesting why he uses rather than he's saying that the absolute being or pre-eternal Son, why does he use, you think, from divine determining?
sorry, what is your question again?
So my question is, why does he mention that the seed receives an order from rather than saying an absolute being, the source, or he uses divine determining? an order from divine determining, right? Like
Uh,
the usage of divine determining here rather than necessarily existent one or
oh, okay. Well, I think what he's trying to say is that when you see like um the seed of a pine the size of a grain of wheat produces all parts of a huge pine tree. In other words, like the seed within the seed comes forth all aspects of the pine tree. How is that possible? Things can only be determined then,
yeah.
divinely determined.
So it like adds a continuity basically to it, right? So it's not just okay, the seed is there, it's made, and now the seed is acting on it.
Correct. Yeah. It's not like, oh, it's happening on its own.
Yeah.
Seed is made and just let it go.
It
But it's
creates
only through the connection that it receives
a
orders,
continuous connection to receive
continuous
the
connection.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
the divine
So,
determining acts on it,
yeah.
plays these wonderful duties.
Because otherwise you just have the potential of a tree within a seed, but not the tree itself,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and is the work to divine for what is the seed that determined becomes manifest in the external world through the divine power and becomes a physical pine tree. Only through the manifestation of power, this connection, this order that it receives from its from that is divinely determined, is it able to display, as he says, wonderful duties. So, it's essentially just it's the act of its maker. It's showing it's the action of its maker in action, really, in real time. Its orders are being received in real time.
Hmm.
So,
Subhanallah.
yeah. Otherwise, if you take the opposite approach, you would have to have then, um, you would have to have uh, all the things present within the seed itself, you know,
Yeah.
all the equipment, all the power, all the art within the seed. But the seed, as when you look at a seed, you just see sort of the same thing, this carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, you know what I'm saying? Like the same sort of elemental things that it's just unconscious in the sense of it's just matter,
Yeah.
you know?
It's
So,
interesting about the potential tree he uses, right?
yeah,
And it- twice he says there's a potentiality for it to be a tree, but it
yeah,
manifests only through the divine power,
yeah,
right? If it wills, divine power will, that this potential of the seed becoming a tree happens.
yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, without the connection, yeah, just
It's
there's nothing.
nothing. It's
There's
nothing.
nothing pretty
Just
much.
a potential, unrealized potential. So, yeah. But yeah, it was a good section. Although
MashaAllah, yes, beautiful, actually.
I don't have anything else to add. I don't know if you had any other thoughts.
Yeah, thinking about seeds and sperms and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
At the end, it's just chemical matters, basically, car
yeah.
oxygen, whatever, carbon, nitrogen, whatever they are. But then,
But within those things is so much potential, and
yeah,
they become something because of that connection alone. So
mm,
you can see this divine absolute power that takes a seed into a shoot, into a tree. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. How from a seed can you get an entire tree? So,
yeah,
so it's miraculous. So,
Allahu Akbar. Yeah, little seed. Like even if you open up a fruit and you see the seeds, you can't imagine, right? We just
yeah,
take it for granted. Oh yeah, that's just apple
yeah,
seed or whatever, orange seed, lemon seed, whatever.
yeah,
SubhanAllah, there's a potential in each of them if the connection is there.
yeah,
Wow. Bismillah, inshallah. Let's stop here and then we'll continue,
yeah. So we'll pick it up
inshallah,
next time.
with the third impossibility next time.
Yeah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana innaka anta alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Welcome to Surah Al-Fatiha.